Hello.
Hello.
I feel somewhat unworthy to be here following two bishops.
So I was going to say, Tom, previous members of staff here have gone on to become bishops, so...
Yes. The Church of England, in its wisdom, I think, has decided not to go down that road for reasons that will be obvious to those who've met me. Yes. But I think worship pastors can become bishops, Graham. In fact...
That's a very funny in-joke.
Yeah, there we go.
Worship Pastor Joy married someone whose surname was Bishop.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes. Tom. So you're not a bishop.
No.
But you, even better than that, though, were on staff team here.
I was, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I was here from the beginning of 2011 to the end of 2015. And it was a time in my life when I got married and had two children. And I ended up with a bit more responsibility than I was expecting. Like Debbie, we do have in common that we were ordained together with you. But also, like Debbie, I did lead the church in a vacancy. And I learned a huge amount through that. And I think it was the making of me in many ways. But what helped me get through that was rather like we've heard already, there were some wonderful couples particularly who took me under their wing and cared for me and Kate. And that meant that, a lot of responsibility that I wasn't expecting rather than, crushing me actually became a really growing and formative experience. And I feel like I'm, still reaping the benefits of that now. So very grateful for that.
Tom and I were actually at Theological College together, and
were.
I had a curacy in Guildford Diocese, and I'd come from here. And Tom, I remember that I think you didn't have a curacy, and I think you phoned me up and said, I've been offered something in Guildford Diocese, what do you think? Mm-hmm. And I hope I said the right thing.
Well, I took the job, so yeah. I don't actually remember that conversation, but
probably for the best.
Yes.
Any particular memories that from your time at St Saviour's here?
Yeah, I loved the contact I had here with the younger end of the spectrum, particularly. That's one of the blessings of being in a university town and a place with a thriving youth work and children's work like we had here. So, I loved seeing in that little season, despite the fact that there were some challenges for the church, the student work really took off. And that was wonderful to see. I remember in that era we had a 24/7 prayer week that was incredibly well attended, and there were just so many miraculous things that happened during that. And I really loved that. I loved the people that I line managed at that time, working in those areas of ministry, the likes of Justin and Joe. You'll remember Jane and many others. And it was a lovely time doing that. And I also really enjoyed sort of doing all-age services with Kate. That was where we first started doing things together, and she would write various sketches, and we would, get people dressing up. And I remember a few notable things. Like we wrote a staff Christmas play in which all the members of the staff took part in a play that was kind of loosely modelled on the Nativity story and Fawlty Towers. I remember Cynthia, for example, was the manager of the Bethlehem Premier Inn, and
I can imagine her doing that very well.
Yeah, so that was fun. I also remember Graham Varley being cast as the angry innkeeper, and
I can't. That's
yeah. So had people in stitches. That was fun. Although I was slightly less appreciated his turn as Tom Darwent Associate Rector in my leaving do, in which I discovered that apparently I walk into things all of the time, and there were certain phrases that I repeat every other sentence, and I had no idea. So that was really good for my self-esteem. So thank you, Graham.
And any phrases that you still use?
Apparently I begin most sentences with "so." That's one. I can't remember the rest. I've tried to erase them from my repertoire.
We'll be asking people here this evening after you've finished speaking.
Please do. Yes, please do.
No, what you said in the last 5 minutes.
Oh, yes, very good.
So, Tom, anything that you are particularly grateful to God for your time at St Saviour's?
Yeah, I think I'm grateful for God showing me that even when you feel really weak, even when a situation looks really challenging, even when you feel out of your depth, he still works, and he can hold you, he can grow you, he can use you, and he can cause a whole community to rally round and pull together, and that was what happened, you know. And I do think that we saw God at work powerfully in those 5 years. There were very different, you know, seasons in that time, but I was so grateful for all that I learned. I'm so grateful for the love that the whole church showed to me. They even laughed at my jokes, which was lovely. But I remember when Clara was baptized here, and I somehow got permission to combine the morning services for that day, and there were about 400 people turned up, and it was standing room only, and it was just the most wonderful environment to have your children born into, and although they can't really remember it because they were so young, they were so loved here, and we were so loved, and it felt like a very safe place for us, and I cherish the memories of those people, and yeah, they're still very dear to me, and I love it when I have a chance to see some of them and catch up.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks, Tom. I know that I've heard so many stories from lots of different people, but stories about your ministry here, and particularly, you mentioned already how, you know, you led through some of the ups and downs of your time here, and I know that particularly members of staff team here really appreciated your leadership and your wisdom, and in so many different ways. And I know that your legacy lives on here in many wonderful ways. So, thank you so much, Tom. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Tom
you.
Darwent.